It was near this spot there. Okay, these are nice of Prabhupada as well.
The king on his estate.
You picked good ones, Krishna Chaitanya.
It's my daughter, Saraswati.
Now, Prabhupada would tease her, too. He got her a deity, right? Didn't he get her a Krishna?
I don't know the story.
He got a Krishna, and then he hid it behind his back. He took it from her. And she started crying and crying, and he wouldn't give it back or let her know where it was. Krishna, where Krishna was, and she was crying, and Prabhupada was seeing this vipralamba, the separation. And finally, he gave Krishna back to Saraswati. But even when we were walking by that lake in Delhi, Saraswati was on your shoulders. And Prabhupada said, "Can Saraswati swim?" Do you remember that? "Can Saraswati swim?" And she said, "No, no." She got a lot of mercy from Prabhupada. Oh. You see why I took so many photographs of Prabhupada? His expressions would change so much like that. Now this group is very nice. Here, Jagat Guru of the world going into the building. There's little baby Saraswati. This is Uttama Shloka and Jimmy Duty. So Prabhupada was going into the room, but he stops and looks at his young, like, child. He treated us. Oh, Prabhupada is still looking at Saraswati.
She would go up in his room every day and play with him.
For hours.
We would always wonder, where's Saraswati? Oh, she's up in Prabhupada's room. And we'd go up, or Malati would go up to get her, and she'd just be sitting there with Prabhupada, talking and playing.
So now he's talking to her, saying something.
He's probably playing a joke on her.
Yeah, Saraswati, you've been good? Come here? No, don't come.
Okay. Light.
Samashinda should talk about this.
This was another ploy to prolong Prabhupada's stay with us in London. I was building the temple room in Berry Place very slowly. And Prabhupada, again, became quite concerned that time was passing. So he would sometimes come into London to observe the construction. And that was not a small trip. It was like a 2-hour trip from John Lennon's place out down to the temple on Berry Place. So here he is inspecting the construction. Srila Prabhupada is expert in every art there you can name, including construction. He always had some good ideas. But he's looking at all of the building work.
So Samashinda said, in humility, should we stop hammering Srila Prabhupada because he was living above the temple room? And Prabhupada said, no, I want to hear your hammering, then I know you're working.
But all of the wood and the construction was modeled after some black and white photos of a temple, a temple in India that I had seen, and I had this book, and I copied the construction ideas from the photo. And just this last month, when we were in Kanchapur, I saw the exact same temple. It was that Shiva temple we went to that night that the interior burial place was modeled after. You can see the columns on the side, and then the redwood inside.
This is Suridas. John and Yoko were going around London in a canvas bag so they could go to events and be there and not be there. It was like a Zen Buddhist idea. So they asked Jamuna and myself to go into this bubble to accept an award one night, but I was the temple president and I was trying to maintain a modicum of decorum, so I declined and asked Suridas, who's French-Algerian with a heavy accent, and his wife Jotila to get in this bubble. So they went to the awards ceremony, and the reporters said, it's definitely John and Yoko in the bubble. But because Jotila was taller than Suridas, they thought she was John and he was Yoko. So now Prabhupada's inspecting, and this temple, we tried to soundproof it. But there was a neighbor, Mr. French, who was complaining all the time. He said they're singing. This was in a meeting with the Greater London Council to get us the final registration to the zoning to have a temple. And he was saying, they're chanting in the morning, and my dog is jumping up and down and barking, and my wife is fainting. You like that one? So we had a member of parliament with us, Mr. Tom Drieberg, who later turned out to be a double agent for the KGB, but that's another story. And so we said it's soundproof. And in the door was a window. And so everybody was standing in the hall, and we played a trick for Krishna. It was like this. There was a window in the temple room, and so the temple room was open, and we were chanting. And when they closed the door, we were looking in the window, and we were going... And they said, there's no sound, and they were playing the mridanga like this. And when the door closed, and I like chanting, they said, there's no sound here. We're standing in the hall. We're not even in your apartment. He said, it's a trick. And it was.
Yeah, less brightness. Yeah.
There's Prabhupada going up to his rooms. One day on a morning walk, I was temple president, so I wanted to make sure everybody had a chance to walk with Prabhupada. So he came down the stairs, and I was just not going to go that morning, but he said, you are coming, Gurudas ji? And I said, okay, I'm coming. He said, thank you very much. But he would read my mind if I was vacillating.
I remember another story about this right here that happened. Prabhupada came in from his walk, and he took off his gloves.
Right.
And he put one glove on the on that knob right there, and he left one glove in his pocket. But and then he started looking around for his gloves, and he says, "Oh, apparently I've lost one glove." And everyone looked around. Finally, they found the other glove in his pocket, and they said, "Oh, we found it, Prabhupada." And he said, "Just see what a fool I am."
To Prabhupada, that was a mistake.
I have made a mistake.
Yes. Well, we were also on a walk in Russell Square, just Prabhupada and I. And I liked Bhaktivinoda Thakur's writings because they were so poetic. And then sometimes I liked Bhaktivinoda Thakur's writings more than Prabhupada even. But I said to Prabhupada, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is my second favorite author, implying that Prabhupada was my favorite. And Prabhupada looked into my mind, and Prabhupada said, second? He knew. He read my mind. So I said, actually, Prabhupada, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is my favorite author because he writes so poetically with Victorian language and epic style. And Prabhupada said, if I had 1/10, and then he cried, of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I would be a great devotee. I don't know what word he said, but he said, if I had 1/10 of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, I would be a great devotee.
The usual walking area was Russell Square from Berry. Berry Place was centrally located in London, just near the British Museum. There was a nice park called Russell Square around the corner. We used to walk there every morning. King of England.
He would point out things on the morning walk. There would be a building, and Prabhupada would see an X on the window, and he'd say, now hiring also. And Prabhupada would say, they were already renting this out, and it is not even finished. This is the sign of not a great economy. Prabhupada called the British economy at the time coal and potatoes. He always had a way of saying something. This is someone named Padma Lochana, lotus eyes, BB eyes.
That's a good shot.
Yeah.
That's Russell Square. As usual, it's raining. Prabhupada is holding his own umbrella there.
Saraswati Dhananjaya.
I think this is Regent's Park.
Yeah.
This is not Russell Square. This is Regent's Park.
Ribhatinanda. Aurobindo. Tejas, yeah. Tejas, Madeira. Tamal Krishna Goswami. Now, finally, Tamal got the idea I should hold the umbrella.
This is Russell Square.
Janaki Purushottam, Prabhupada. Pritha Jyotirmayi, Mandakini. Mandakini is a wonderful devotee. They were saying that we were obstructing Piccadilly Circus. We would go right in the middle of London, and we would chant, and people would gather around, and they were complaining we were obstructing traffic and foot traffic. So we had a plan that if we got arrested, I would photograph it. Tamal Krishna had a Karmi-looking hat. He might have got it from his father or something. So the plan was that the most plaintive-looking girl, Mandakini, would be in the front, and we would all go down and pray. So she and Jyotirmayi would go down like that, and the big policeman was hovering over us, and I published the photo, and it looked like the police were harassing us. So then they arrested myself and Yogeshwara. And so we went to trial. We spent a night in jail. So the judge said, "Is it true that you're blocking the footpath?" And I said, "Where were we arrested?" And he said, "Shaftesbury Avenue." And I said, "That was on the way to our temple. We're not obstructing anything." And he said to the police officer, "Is this true?" And the police officer said, "Yes." So he said, "I'm inclined to dismiss this case." But the judge said, Must you trundle the footpaths in your costumes?" So I said, "These robes represent God, just like your robes represent the law." So he said, "Quite. Case dismissed. Case dismissed."
What's all this yellow?
Yeah, I don't know. This is one of my favorite series of photos. This is in front of the Bury Place Temple. We were fortunate to get this. Actually, Shamashinda knew somebody. I met him in the line at the bank, and then Shamashinda knew him from San Francisco, and we were able to get this building. Is that the one that George guaranteed for us?
I think.
Yeah, George Harrison guaranteed us. Before that, they weren't wanting us to zone. But here, you see the gate? The Greater London Council said that you cannot put any signs there because this is outside the temple. So Prabhupada said, "This is inside." So then the Greater London Council also said, "You cannot put any signs there because it's inside the gate." And Prabhupada said, "This is outside." We were riding with the mayor of Delhi, looking at plots of ground. And Prabhupada would say, "What is that piece of ground for?" And Hansraj Gupta would say, "That's for recreation." And Prabhupada said, "We are recreation." "What is this for?" "Education." "We are education." That's how Prabhupada thought. I don't know what this yellow is, but this is the temple that Shamashinda built with Tirthapada. All the redwood came from California. Yeah, in fact, Shamashinda is going to tell that story.
There's the boat-shaped ceiling.
Yeah. Nanda Kumar. This person is Lord Sorensen, one of the lords of the House of Commons. But we are in the room of Westminster Abbey, the famous abbey where many people are buried, and it's a big cathedral in England. And this is the abbot of Westminster Abbey, who was very favorable to Prabhupada. Lord Sorensen isn't quite as favorable. But you see, he's reading back to Godhead. This is Apu Pant on the way. This is a whole series again of photos. India House in the Strand. Again, he's reading back to Godhead.
Indira Gandhi's time. How could you refuse that smile?
This was a very famous program. Prabhupada asked me that I should, or maybe it was my idea, but we should have a different title. It was 6 or 7 days of lectures. So I put titles like The Meaning of the Vedas and things like that, and Prabhupada would talk on that.
Yeah, I think the reason we did Conway Hall is because his Guru Maharaj had some disciples that came to London, and they did a lecture in Conway Hall.
Oh, that's right.
So Prabhupada liked the idea we were coming back to the same hall that his Guru Maharaj's disciples gave a program in 30 years earlier.
Yes. And those disciples went back in 1942, not very successful. So you can see the English public is dancing and chanting, and Prabhupada preached so nicely and answered the questions. Trivikram Maharaj is there. Saraswati got everybody dancing one night. There, Prabhupada is answering questions. You see how he would be so personable to everybody. He would just answer their questions. Who knows where this photograph is seen? Yes, Back to Godhead magazine. It's the masthead. Famous photo.
Oxford Town Hall.
Yes, this is Oxford Town Hall.
These are students at Oxford University.
Professors.
Didn't Mukunda play that organ during the kirtan?
I think so.
Up behind Prabhupada there was a huge pipe organ. Huge. And Mukunda played it during the kirtan. It made an incredible sound.
I guess Mukunda has 4 arms, playing the mridanga and the organ at the same time.
Maybe not.
That's Jaya Hari before he shaved. Very, very competent devotee. Came from a Muslim background. So you see the photographer was running back and forth, behind Prabhupada, front Prabhupada. There's
Mukunda playing the pipe organ.
Yep.
And Ishan over on the right with his trumpet.
Yeah, playing the trumpet. I'm surprised it's in focus. Usually when Prabhupada danced, I was dancing too, so it's hard to keep the camera in focus. Okay, now Samarshand is going to tell how the deities came from the person who was connected with the Hindu center, Mr. Goyal. He's going to tell the story now.
I guess this is probably the East London Hindu Center. Huh? In those days, there were not many Indian followers, very few, in fact. There weren't many Indians yet in London to begin with, and those that were there were not very, not very receptive to Krishna consciousness. They had their own ways, their own little temples spread out in the suburbs of London. Gradually, more and more Indian people came, and now it's probably the majority of our congregation in England is from India or Indian origin. But in the beginning, they were very few. But we sometimes went out to the Hindu centers to do programs. apparently this one, sometimes Prabhupada, we would not be prepared to speak, but sometimes Prabhupada would say, Gurudas, you will say something, or Shamsundar, you will say something, and we were stuck. We had to speak. Radhanath's an expert at that too.
Yes, he does that.
Go on, next one. There's little Saraswati down there.
So they had a deity there.
Yeah, this, I don't know if it happened before or after, but when the temple was being constructed and finished, we still did not have any deities for the London center. We heard that perhaps there's one photo, maybe it's the next one, where the Hindus are sitting in Prabhupada's room? No. At some point, the Hindus came forward and told us that they had a Radha and Krishna, that they had ordered for their temple, but that the small finger on Radha's hand had broken in transit. So it was their tradition, they could not install a deity that was damaged that way. So Prabhupada took us out to see this deity one day at their Hindu center, about 5 or 10 days before the temple was due to be installed, before a deity was due to be installed at London, and still we had no deity. So he took one look and asked us to pick up the deities and take them out to our van. In fact, he stole the deities from the East London Hindu Center. The talk was all in Hindi, so we don't know what was exchanged, but apparently Prabhupada wound up kidnapping Radha and Krishna from the Hindu Center.
They wanted some money, and then they were stalling, like tomorrow and Prabhupada said, no, we can take today. Can we take today? So
he tricked them by saying, can you carry that tamal? Can you pick that up and carry it? Yes, Prabhupada, I've got it in my hands. So it seems that one man can carry it. He says, well, then take it out to the van while you're at it.
Yes, so he did. London Ishwari.
London Ishwara.
Now, everybody knows Prabhupada in his formal way, but when you were with Prabhupada in his room, he would be like that, relaxed. Sometimes his leg was up. He'd put his hand on his knee. This is how I remember Prabhupada a lot. Just really relaxed.
Making fun of something that happened during the day or something. Some devotee will come in and say, well, Prabhupada, I heard this on the news today, and Prabhupada would comment and make some jokes.
Or about the scientists who said that this poison is odorless, colorless, and tasteless. And so Prabhupada said, who tested that it's tasteless?
That's the look.
Yeah.
If you could get Prabhupada to give that look for something you said or did.
Enthusiasm is the backbone of Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada would say. So how can anyone be even more enthusiastic than that? Of course we were enthusiastic, because look at that. Prabhupada would say, what news? And then he'd be so happy like that. And I would not see him for maybe 10 minutes only. And I'd come in and he would be like, we haven't seen each other for 20 years. It'd be like that. He'd be so happy to see you.
Oh, explaining a point. Flawless philosopher. Wow.
Prabhupada looks so peaceful there. We just came back from a program we were in Amsterdam still, Holland. This studio was underground. They put dry ice during the television program to make smoke so it would look like we were mystical. More than once. Prabhupada said some people in the future will never see the sun. They will live underground their whole life because we were underground that day. We got to the airport and someone had lost the tax or the ticket or the baggage. Prabhupada is still very peaceful. He's looking at his watch, but still, he's very, very peaceful. We were running around. Prabhupada is transcendental. Shiradai Vishnu, he was a merchant, gave up his business, followed Prabhupada, went to India.
He was the first Indian devotee, I think, in England. Yes, first Indian disciple.
And he eventually went to Vrindavan and left his body there. So this is still at the airport. People are still running around trying to find the ticket. You see, this person is not very happy. And Prabhupada is transcendental.
That's Jimmy Duty's brother, isn't it?
Oh, is that Jimmy Duty's brother? Yeah. He couldn't pronounce the Sanskrit name, Jimmy Duty's brother. He calls Sam Rashunda Sammy Shoe.
Oh my goodness, look at that. Oh, what a photo. Whoa. Look at that.
Transcendental. Look how nice he's even benedicting me through the camera. That's how he was so kind upon me. Even though the camera's there, he's still looking like that.
Checking his documents, huh?
Passport. Okay, this is the Hindu center.
That's the meeting of the Hindu Center chiefs.
Mr. Parikh, Mr. Goyal.
Oh, yeah. Saraswati giving him a puri. Or he's giving her one. I'm not sure. She probably came in eating it and he asked her for it.
You'd never know. Even in San Francisco, one time he came in the kitchen and he started eating pakoras. And they said, "How many of these can you eat?" And he said, "More than you can make." And then Harsharani said, "Didn't you say that you shouldn't eat in the kitchen?" And he said, "Yes, but I've given you these rules so I can break them." I don't tell that story too much. Look at how sincerely he chants. Pradyumna was there, Panditji. He was called over from Boston and he came to help with Sanskrit. Prabhupada preaching.
Ah,
Amazing. Did you build that Vyasa-san?
no, this was one we used for. It was a portable one.
Oh.
I think it was made later.
1,001 expressions. How could you not photograph so much?
Wow. Whoa.
Another person's life changed by Prabhupada's smile.
That's a full laugh.
Okay, now we're going to play the Govindam.
No, it doesn't matter.
These were recording in the studio with Sriman George Harrison, and he's playing the introduction to the Govindam, and we're singing our own chorus.
I think this is the Hare Krishna mantra record.
Acha.
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe not. No, because Jamuna was seated in the Hare Krishna Hare Krishna mantra. This must be Govindam.
Do you know this person?
It's Jamuna.
No, this person.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, that was Govindam.
Hari Purusham. Kanvantam Madhavin Radalaya Taksham Varhavatam Samasita Surya Mundarangam Kandar Pakoti Kamaniya Vishesha Shobham Vindam Purusham Maham Vajami Govindam Adi Purusham Maham Vajami Govindam Adi Purusham Maham Vajami Yasasakayam Priyaprimanti Pasyanti Panti Kayanti Iyam Jaganti Ananda Chinaya Sadhu Yajali Rahasa Govindam Hari Purusham. Hari Purusham. Dam Hari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Hari Purusham Maham Bhajami Govindam Hari Purusham Maham Bhajami Govindam Hari Purusham Maham Bhajami Govindam Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Hari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Hari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Purusham Tamaham Govindam Hari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Hari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Hari Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Hari Purusham Jai. Okay, now George thought while we were building the Bury Place Temple that it would be good because now we started with 7 and then there was 25 or so and now there's about 40 devotees. We need a bigger place so that we could live at John Lennon's estate and help with the work there while the temple was being built. So this is at home on John Lennon's estate, making prasadam. This is Patty, George's first wife, and George Harrison, Malati Jamuna. Just sharing prasadam with the devotees, hearing the holy name. Talking philosophy. Saraswati playing the cymbals. Our S. Raj, maestro.